I love sitting up here. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what YouTube looks like right now. So you
Let
can
me,
get out of YouTube. Right?
Jeremy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's. Yep.
I'm more relaxed. Yeah. This is the Parks and Environment Committee, right?
You'll be able to see there. You would have to speak into the microphone, because otherwise, because we're live streaming it, it won't be picked up.
Yeah, we'll have to give you, to that.
Okay, what is the name? He's showing up at the attendance.
Okay. All right. No, it's gonna make it easier on Maria, so that's
Yes.
good. So you would have to do it from that computer?
From
but
this
when she's
computer?
ready to make the presentation, you would make her co-host, and then she'll share her screen.
I think it actually change something on there, and I think we also have the speeches.
You may want to make an announcement, by the way, because people who are watching this may be confused. You just say, we'll start in a few minutes. On the microphone.
Are we starting?
In a bit.
We will be starting in a few minutes.
attendees. Right,
It's already had.
yeah, 5. Make Natalie a panelist.
So let's put them over there.
I think, yes, yes.
Come over there.
Hi. Oh, 5 people now? Great. Okay, so since we have more people in attendance, I think it's time to start. Jeremy told me that there's a Knicks game, so I think people want to see it later tonight. All right? Okay, so I'll just do a rundown of the agenda before we take attendance. We're gonna have 2 presentations today. Uh, it should take around maybe 20 to 30 minutes each presentation, right? Or so. So we'll get started with attendance.
So I will be calling attendance if you are. I will be calling attendance if you are on Zoom and I call your name, unmute yourself, say present, and once again, mute yourself. Thank you. Julio Peña. Diana Aguilar. Esteban Chavez. Diana Gonzalez. Nicole Huang. Daniel Kaminsky. Jeremy Kaplan. Aaron Keith. Paul Mack. Rosie Moda. And Sam Sierra. Okay, roll call's been called.
First presentation. You can come up. Natalie. So our first presentation from Natalie from Beyond Plastics. You can sit here on the podium if you'd like.
Hey, everybody. Just gonna get my.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Natalie Rushinoff, and I work for an organization called Beyond Plastics. I'm super thankful and honored to be here. I'm from Brooklyn, so I love the community board system. Anyway, so I thought I could talk a little bit about my organization, what we do and why, and then launch into why I'm here. So we have a 1-sentence mission, and that is to end plastic pollution everywhere. We were started in 2019 by a former EPA administrator in the Obama administration, Judith Inc. And in her time at the EPA, she became super concerned by what she was learning about plastics. And there was this one statistic in particular that really caught her attention. And that was that 15 million tons of plastics enter our ocean every year, and that it's estimated by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. In response to everything she was learning, she started our organization. So just going to do a quick overview of the plastics crisis. Oh, it's not, okay. I think I might be having some internet issues. Sorry, everybody. Oh, I think my Zoom quit. Should I? Apologies. Sure, that would be. Yeah, that would be good. Technical issues, you know? Okay, amazing. Okay, if you could go to the fourth, nope, not even, the fifth slide. Keep going. There, where it says plastics are made from chemical and fossil fuels. Oh. Yeah, just scroll up. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me. Okay, so as the slide says, plastics are made from a combination of chemicals and fossil fuels. There are over 16,000 different chemicals used in the production of plastics, which is why creating an effective recycling system has proven to be incredibly hard. In the US, our national recycling rate falls between 5 and 6%, depending on the year. And in New York State specifically, our recycling rate for plastics falls between 18 and 19%. So when I hear statistics like that, I'm just hearing we haven't created, we have a system that so far is failing us. If you can go to the next slide, I hope. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So plastics are the plan B for the petrochemical industry. There, with increased desire for reusable energy, things like electric cars, demand for oil and gas has been going down and will continue to. And so there's been reports leaked that have shown that the petrochemical industry and plastics industry plans to double plastic production by 2050 as a way to continue their profit margins. Now, microplastics, which I had on a different slide, which I will hold up here because I don't want to make you go back. So this is 2 petri dishes of microplastics. Microplastics have been found in human brains, hearts, livers, kidneys, our bloodstream, placentas, both reproductive organs. And we're just starting to understand the health impact. There was a study that came out 2 weeks ago that's demonstrated a link between over 300,000 deaths from heart disease, linking them to a specific kind of chemicals used in plastic in things like your rain jackets, shower curtains. So we're just starting to understand the health impact, but we know that there is one. And for communities who live near incinerators, plastic producing plants, or landfills, the rates of cancer, dementia, asthma, and other chronic illness, preterm births as well, is much, much higher. And the majority of these communities are communities of color or low income communities. So this is a huge environmental justice and environmental racism issue. And that's really at the heart of our work. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so just some more statistics on plastic. So over 400 million metric tons of plastic are produced annually. 50% of this is single use. And where was that? Oh yeah, and the plastics industry produces more greenhouse gas emissions annually than the entire global aviation industry. So we consider it the new coal. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. So now I just want to talk a little bit about plastics and waste in New York State specifically. So New York spends $500 million a year trucking our waste, and most of it gets trucked through the Bronx and then sent by rail to other places to then either get burned, landfilled, or moved, exported to other states or countries. Plastic packaging of our entire waste stream, plastic and packaging makes up 40% of our waste stream. So we figure if we're able to reduce the amount of packaging and plastic that we produce in New York, we can both save money and improve both the environmental and human health. So New York has 10 active waste incinerators. This is the map of all of them. And this is actually, we have more waste incinerators in New York than any other state, which is not really an accolade I'm very proud of. And then 7 of the 10 incinerators are located in environmental justice communities, and each community where these are located face higher rates, again, of cancer, low-term births, asthma, and other chronic illness. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so we don't think at this rate in our current system that we can recycle our way out of the problem. But we have a chance to change things in New York this year by passing a bill called the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act, which is a very long name, so we have nicknamed it PREA, and that's how I'll be referring to it for the rest of the presentation. And PREA focuses on reduction. So if you go to the next slide, keep going. Apologies again. And then to the next one. Yep, perfect. Okay, so PREA is an extended producer responsibility bill. And I'm gonna just list off the highlights of what it's trying to do, and then I'll go into each of them more specifically. So the first thing that PREA will establish or require is that companies reduce plastic packaging by 30% over a 12-year period. The second is that the remaining packaging must be recycled or reused effectively at a 70% rate. And remember, in New York, right now we're at an 18% rate. So that would be a huge increase, and we can all feel confident that when we put something in a recycling bin, it's actually getting recycled or reused. Number 3 is PREA will make companies pay municipalities for waste management of packaging. Currently, taxpayers and municipalities are responsible for all of the cleanup of packaging. Companies have no vested interest in helping support waste management. PREA would change that. The fourth is PREA will reduce toxic chemicals in packaging by banning the 17 most harmful chemicals, which includes lead, chromium, mercury, PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, and formaldehyde, among others. And then the fifth and final top line point of PREA is PREA will prohibit the false solution of chemical recycling from counting toward recycling targets. If you haven't heard of chemical recycling before, don't worry, I have some slides on that. But basically, it's a new marketing strategy by the plastics industry to try and convince people that they are going to be able to solve the plastics crisis by breaking plastics back down into their original chemical components. So far, this has proven to only cause harm to the environments and communities where chemical recycling plants have been built. Can you go to the next slide, Maria? Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to go into each point a little bit more. So PREA would reduce plastic packaging by 30% over 12 years. Now this requirement will kick in incrementally, and reusable, refillable packaging is encouraged in PREA. The second part of the percentage targets is PREA would require companies to reduce all secondary packaging by 50%. Secondary packaging is what materials are shipped in or how they're delivered to the store, most consumers don't see or engage with secondary packaging. And then the last percentage target is to require 70% of the remaining packaging, and this isn't just plastic, this is metal, cardboard, paper, glass, etc. So 70% of the remaining packaging will be reused or recycled by 2052. With a minimum of 20% being required to be reused. A quick interesting statistic is that less than a century ago, all of our beverages were packaged in reusable containers that you'd drink your drink, you'd put the carton back out and it would get picked up and then refilled and reused. So this is really about going back to a better system. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so I changed this quite a bit on, oh, wait, could you continue? Actually, yeah, there we go. Okay, so PRIA will save taxpayers money. So PRIA will require companies that sell packaged goods to pay fees on packaging, which will encourage designs for reuse and recyclability. And then these fees will get paid out to municipalities to cover the cost of waste management and recycling. There are exceptions. This is not going to target small businesses. So any company that is makes less than $5 million will be exempt from PRIA's rules, as well as packaging for medical devices and medications, things like hazardous, things that package flammable or hazardous products, that's also exempted from PRIA. So that there are exemptions, and I will send the full list to the board. Can you go to the next slide? And continue. Okay, so part 3 of PRIA is reducing the toxic chemicals. So this is the full list of 17 chemicals that will be banned from use in plastic packaging. And I'm not going to read them all, mostly because I can't pronounce a lot of those, but some of them include chromium, lead, mercury, phthalates, formaldehyde, and PFAS, or forever chemicals. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so another thing that PRIA will accomplish is it will establish a very strong definition of recycling. So what this means is that companies will not be able to count any incineration or burning or chemical recycling of packaging toward the 70% recyclability. So it's not banning chemical recycling, but it's saying that if you burn something, that does not count as recycling it, that you'd have to, for something to count as recycling, it has to go from one product into another product. Currently, we don't have a definition of recycling for New York State, so PRIA would establish one. And then just a little more on chemical recycling. So chemical recycling uses high heat and harmful chemicals to attempt to break down plastics into their original components. This process has been shown to produce harmful emissions and hazardous waste that is very hard to dispose of. And this is an environmental justice crisis that we want to stop before it really gets started. And just to give you a statistic that demonstrates this, of the 8 currently operating and 31 proposed chemical recycling facilities, 20 are in communities of color and 29 are in low-income communities. So we really want to stop that before it gets started, especially because it's also not effective. A lot of times in chemical recycling, you need to use virgin plastic anyway. If you can go to the next slide, and you can keep going. These are all just more slides on chemical recycling, but we're going to skip them. You can keep going to where it says 5. Perfect. Okay, so the last part of PRIA is to ensure that it's effectively carried out and run, there will be a new office established of the Inspector General, which will oversee PREA and ensure that there's no kind of stealing of the fees, the extended producer fees, or that companies are actually meeting their targets. And you can actually take the presentation down now. So the last part is why I'm here at Community Board 7. So currently, the bill PREA has passed both the Assembly and Senate environmental committees. The New York Association of Municipalities, all of the current people running for mayor of New York City, comptroller, also one of them, over 300 organizations have come out in support of PREA, but we need to keep building pressure, and we need more legislators on our side. So we have over 70 co-sponsors in the Assembly and 29 co-sponsors in the Senate, but yeah, so fingers crossed. I mean, we'll see what happens. But two of the people we'd really love to either say that they are going to vote yes or to co-sponsor are Assembly Member Lester Chang from Assembly District 49 and Senator Chan from Senate District 17. Which in my research, Community Board 7 deals with them. So we would really love if Community Board 7 decides, or if the committee decides to advance this to a full vote, we'd love if you'd pass a resolution in support of PREA, and then send us and all of your legislatures a copy of the resolution. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry again about the slides. And yeah, if anyone has questions or concerns, love to hear them.
Yeah, that would save time, but we'll get the other microphone too.
Take whichever.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah. First of all, great presentation, and didn't hurt that you didn't have everything there. The plastic bag moratorium that was planned, went into effect for 3 days, taken away. Do you think, are you guys lobbying for anything like that? Plastic bag straws here in New York City with the current mayoral candidates?
We have been working on a Stop the Stuff bill, which is what you're referring to, which would do a full ban, straws, plastic bags, etc. We right now really kind of all of our attention in New York is focused on getting this bill passed. And technically, Stop the Stuff did pass. And so now I think it's more about enforcement and ensuring that gets carried out. But there are other people at my organization who would have a much better answer. So I will write down your question and I can get your email and give you a better response. But that is a focus of ours. Yeah.
Your timeline, so 12 years for 30% and another 25 years. No, that's the art of the possible, right? As in politics, everything is art of the possible, but it seems to be a very extended timeline for a state like New York. Why was that long time frame? In other words, is that an infrastructure related question? Is that a policy related question? Because the problems you raised, and congratulations, you did very well. It's very, very here and now, right? So kids with microplastics in their brains are news of every day.
Yes, I completely agree with your concern, and my organization's stance is that this is way too soft. We initially started with a 75% reduction of plastic, told that that was never going to get passed. Then we tried for 50%, again, we're told that that was never going to get passed. So even the percentages in here, we wanted much higher, and same with the timeline. But unfortunately, the business lobby and the petrochemical lobby, the plastics lobby are very strong. And so even when we have senators who understand how important this issue is, these were part of the concessions that they made to be able to say, okay, we're going to do this, but I can still, support industry. So this was really more external forces that made concessions happen in the bill. And just interesting thing to me anyway, the American Chemistry Council, which is the lobbying arm of the plastics industry, they're like this close to spending, I think it's a billion, no, not a billion. It's like $500 million they've already spent on lobbying against PREA, and they're set to get to about 900. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's. I'll double check that, but yeah.
Other questions?
I get to be the. Is this one more? Okay. Internet problems. So my question is not about this bill itself, but the impact of burning the garbage. You said, I believe there are 9 communities, 10 communities. There are many more that used to have incinerators, including this one. And we could stop burning today, but those environments are already damaged, and people could still be getting sick from the conditions of those environments for years, including in this community. Is there anything in this bill, or are there any companion bills that are coming up that would look at the environmental damage that incinerators have caused, whether it's to study it, to provide funding for cleanup, or I see you shaking your head, so I'm sure you already have answers.
I unfortunately do not have a good answer for this. There's not a current bill up, and this bill doesn't even begin to address, which would be a bigger picture bill. There are amazing organizations who have been fighting tirelessly and around the incinerators and the 25 active landfills that we have in New York. And unfortunately, there hasn't been much bite by legislators yet. But this is a focus of our organization. We partner with a ton of environmental justice organizations. And so I'm hoping in the near future, but unfortunately, no, at the moment. It's a great question though, and great concern.
Anyone else? Okay, so I just wanted to speak to the letter of support point. Since we don't have a majority of the committee here, we can't vote on anything just yet. So it'll have to wait until the general meeting, which will be next Wednesday, right? Every third of the month. So there, I'll bring this up and then put it to vote. And I'll strongly urge everyone to vote in support for the letter.
Thank you so much. I also have a draft resolution in case I have a couple copies, and it's just this single page. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for your questions and your attention. And I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I'm so
Natalie, now we'll move on to our second presentation from Blue Horizon Sailing.
Hello. Oh. You open mine, because it's I can see there. Good evening. My name is Nelson Garces. I'm from this organization called Horizon Sailing. First of all, thank you very much for the committee for having us here today. We promise to be brief in our representation and proposal. And just before starting, I just want to reference to something that she said. It was a great presentation. Congratulations. It's so much. And I think one of the important points that we all forget is that significant portion of avoiding plastic is on us. It's not necessarily on a piece of legislation that needs to be put together, right? So Chris mentioned the fact that there was a regulations prohibiting plastic bags and disappeared in 3 days. But it's up to us to have one bag and go to the supermarket with that instead of carrying one, right? So I think that's something that you guys need to push if you are not pushing, because without that one, I mean, we change the world, so we don't expect the government in any form or fashion to change the world, right? Anyway, sorry for that, but it's how I was feeling about. So again, thank you very much for the committee for having us here today. Blue Horizon and Sailing is an organization that's being created by a significant portion here from Brooklyn, not all. Unfortunately, I'm not a Brooklyn resident, but the majority of our members are. And the idea is basically work in waterfront community access and provide something that will allow the people of those regions, those neighborhoods that we live with access and an effective access and use of the waterfront. What we would like to discuss here today is regarding the what we call the Community Center for Sunset Park. I don't know if you have the slides or you don't have. The show, if you can share, would be great. If not, I'll have mine here, and if worst case scenario, we spend 5 minutes and I connect mine to the Zoom, but I mean, yeah, that's right. So if you move for the next slide, please. We are saying basically that who we are, right? So we are a nonprofit that was formed, dedicated to youth development, basically, vocational training and community recreation through maritime activities. So our focus is to provide this kind of thing for the community at all, and mostly providing equitable waterfront access. Most people that lives in those areas, lives on those regions, are so close to the water, but do not have a way to use that marvelous resource that we have in front of us. So what we are talking here today is about creating that opportunity for the community of Sunset Park, for the residents of Sunset Park, and some of the neighboring areas that could be attached. There is Ad Hoc, there is Bay Ridge, so the whole broad waterfront. So what is we believe here and why we're talking about sailing? Sailing for most people is considered an elite sport and things that are only the people can do. But the group that create this one is not parting of that concept and that idea. So can you move to the next slide? Yeah, that's good. So we're founded for a group of people that has been doing this for years, has been sailing for years, but they really believe that sailing is not necessarily just a sport and an elite sport. It's a way to provide education and helping with personal growth, especially for young adults. So being in a boat where you are basically dealing with the elements of nature, water, air, nothing more than that one really, is help you understanding a lot of the areas of STEM, I mean, science, technology, engineering, mechanics, but also helps you to work in teamwork, leadership. And I mean, you are in a boat, you are not by yourself, right? And it looks like a team really, because if someone does something wrong, you can be in trouble. So everybody needs to be organized. And also, it's something that gives to environmental awareness, right? So we are in the middle of those things. The ocean, when you talk about plastics, you know, is one of the biggest challenge that we have today, is the fact that there's so much plastic in the oceans and all of those things. So can you just push the button again? Yeah, so we basically think that this helps us connecting to the nature, connecting to the elements, and inspire you developing responsibility. So having access to the waters through a sport that consider all the things is a tool to help development of people. So can you go to the next slide, please? And then we'll have to do some touches. What we're proposing here is the concept of creating a community marine activity center in the Bush Terminal Piers Park. That's everybody knows. Next one. basically, we established this community will be an equitable access to the waterfront, where we'll be offering water activities to everybody, to all residents in the area and non-residents in the area too. They can come approach here, but the idea is to be open for that. So we'll be offering sailing through ourselves, canoeing, kayaking for all people, basically through partnership organizations that will be working together with us. Next one, that will be open year round. So we'll be offering educational and vocational programs. When you talk about the educational programs, we'll be working with public schools on the area here to provide kids with access to the water, as well as after-school programs that help them to be away from the streets, away from the screens, be basically involved with their own development and their own activities. We also intend to provide hands-on training for marine skills for adults, also for young adolescents, but mostly for adults. That's a new opportunity for them to develop a trade, develop an opportunity to work on this area. And for doing that one, we intend to have, or we are organizing to have our own fleet of boats that will be available for that. So people doesn't need to bring a boat, they'll be there, infrastructure will be available for them. So that creates a significant synergy with the park, right? So that will be adding something. The park already have a baseball, the park have a football, the park had the music concerts. And there's a beautiful waterfront around that's being barely used, maybe once a year, people is accessing that one in some events. So the idea is to provide that on a continuous basis. And last but not least is part of the concept of the greenway integration. It's being accessible by bike, it's accessible by public transportation. So it's linking all those activities, a park, a water, the transportation means in the city, and everything else be part of a whole concept and idea. Next slide, please. So what we are talking, why Bush Terminal Pierce Park is a perfect location for that. It serves a community over 120,000 citizens, according to the last statistics that we have. And probably you guys know even more or better than these numbers. So easy access, so about 3,000 feet from 2 subway stations that has access from everywhere in the area here. There's about 11 public schools in a 1 mile radius. So one of that schools are primary schools, but there are several high schools, prep schools, and middle schools here. There is a total of about 2,800 students of high school and middle school around here, according to the 2023-2024 enrollment statistics. So it has the population, it has the kids around, it has the people that are interested. And we know, you guys know better than I, that's a community that is one of the highest poverty ranges in the New York in general. So that will be bringing then this development opportunity for the kids, for the adults, and for enjoying the environment that they live. Next slide, please. Last, I can slow down, but I think we're going good. Next slide, our core programs that we're talking, it's the first one, as we said, is community-driven sailing experience. So we'll have our own fleet of boats that will allow them to be available, be in the water, enjoying the water during the time. On a safe way, we're not just basically giving a boat to someone that have no idea to do that one, safe is paramount. The idea is that basically they will be supervised, they will be done with people that know what they're doing. They will allow the kids to come to the water and learn and develop those things that we mentioned, like leadership. After schools hours, not when the water, they will be working on their skills. They're working on their ability, working with math, with working sciences in general. So that will be a ability for them to do that one. So educational year-round programs. I just briefly mentioned and was talking, we'll be offering after-school activities, offering summer camps, but will be something that will allow these kids to grow in their academics too, right? So they will be helped, they will be pushed towards excellence in academics, right? And we'll not be doing that ourselves alone. We'll be doing that with organizations that already offer this kind of programs, and they're offering this with accredited programs. Most of the schools would like to be participating on that one because of that. Vocational training, as I said, similarly working with organizations that are accredited in this training. We'll be offering vocational training in both adults and young people in the maritime industry. There's things like boat repairs. There are things like sail clothing, loft, what they call it, basically making the sails. there will be electric services, there will be mechanical services, other areas that people are prepared to do in this market. It's a market that has been growing and more people is going to the water, and there is. Second, I mean, even if it's in a little pause, there is the big effort for offshore wind that's happening. New York has been one. You guys know nearby here, there is a major center. So I'm not saying that you'll be training people in turbines, but there is a lot of water support that will be required. So people that learns and know how to do this kind of things, the market will be ready and growing for them. Last but not least, environmental programs. That's what a very important point. So marine estuary preservation, something that we're talking here, from counting microplastic concentrations, but from life expectations of the marine in the estuary, of the marine life in the estuary. You'll be working with local organizations. One of the big organizations that will be working or discussing things on to do together is the Billion Oyster Project that most of you probably know already. It's similar, a little bit active on the park there, but I mean, we would like to work together with them and bring that to the public community in general. So, and finally, I mean, at the end of the day, since we are focused on sailing, we'll be providing accreditation for sailing education, but that's down the road. We're not planning to start from that. As I said, we are not planning to do any of that by ourselves only. So we plan to do that in partnerships. So we'll call that partnerships. But basically what we are thinking is working together with, like, for example, the New York Harbor School. That's one of the major high schools for training on the maritime industry. The Billion Oyster Project, that's already existing here. Brooklyn Boat Works, some of you probably know, they do boat building for schools. So this is an activity that we do, small boat buildings. We're not talking about constructing major ships. We're talking about small boat building that could be built here in the schools itself, can be doing the things. And then the kids go to the water and learn how to do that. But this is a typical activity that can be done for them during the winter time where they don't have access to the water. So they will be able to continue working on their development of things. And those are marvelous programs that you learn how to, you know, measure, draw, prepare, cut, all the skills required for that are trained on that one. There is the NIA, that is an organization that's already here in the region, basically providing after-school programs for schools. So they give more than just basically ludicrous activities. They would just basically give them training and expertise after that one. And with the New York City Water Trail Association, for example, that works with kayaks and we work with boats and canoes. They're already working around the area here, and that's an activity for people. So giving the kids the opportunity of being on a kayak on the water or learning how to be around that one. Again, always remembering that everything needs to be done under safety principles and under things that are required for guaranteeing that those kids are not exposed to any harm. Another point that's important, everybody that you'll be training here will have specific training for how to deal with kids. That's another important component of this. We cannot just have anyone coming in, show up. There is training that is provided for them in that directions. So we're not inventing the wheel here or reinventing the wheel. There's other programs that are doing that, not here in Brooklyn. There is the main two programs that we have in the region. One's called Rocking the Boat. It's being done in South Bronx, basically in the Hunts Point area. This program exists for probably about 10 or 12 years. They provide support for the community of the South Bronx there. Close to 2,000 people per year have access to or has used their systems. They can provide more, but these people that are doing. They have about 200 students that are going to their programs, after school programs. They provided the full support to them. I mean, they have a very high end of graduation in the students for high school. They have the statistics that I pushed here, 94%. When you compare that to the average of the region, that's kind of a 57%. You see that by keeping the kids involved on those activities, it's extremely important. And they have a significant success rate for putting to college, pushing these kids to college. In Manhattan, on the west side, on the Hudson River, there is the Hudson River Community Sailing. That's a similar organization that offer the same kind of initiatives and programs. So more than 3,000 people serve there. They offer other programs. They offer programs for people with disabilities. They offer programs for veterans. We're not going to start on this, but it's something that this exists for probably 17 years right now. They have the same idea of kids from public schools. 250 students per year they're attending currently, and they have a very high end of acceptance and enrollment in college for those kids, 96%. They offer, including advisory for the students that are preparing themselves for school. So that's the kind of programs that we want to have and present here. So in a nutshell, that's what we're proposing to do, and we would like to talk to you guys about what can you guys help us to get access to the water, right? So the most important point here is access to the water. There is plenty of water and very limited access to the water. The team that's behind here, most of the people is here. We founded Laurent Apollon that is here, Dave Sheen that's here, and myself. We kind of create the concept. And some of our board members, Pat Murphy is here, Michael Abag is here, Chris Huntington is there. Ava was supposed to be here, but unfortunately is, and we have Mark here with us too. That is not a board member, but it's a supporter. And we have Dimitri sitting here, and he made the cool design that I'll show on the next slide. But he is one of our supporters, and they've been working with us too. That's basically what we are proposing to do, is the concept of creating a community center that is. So what I will show next is, thanks Dimitri for putting that together, is please don't be kind of, sorry, alarmed about what we're showing here. This is the vision for the future, right? We'll not start by doing something of that magnitude because that takes time, that takes money, that takes a thing to say. But what we think today, this beautiful area as the park is, this spacing here on your right side is places where we think we can explore. So and what we visualize for the future, for the opportunity of doing this one, is something like this. It's a boathouse with a pier there, with a dock, a floating dock, where the boats could be around and people could be using. The boathouse will be used not for just for people being, it's a community center really, right? So they'll be having their classes, their activities. There will be their kayaks, storage, things like that. The boats will be in the water, and through the platform here, people will have access to the boats and to the infrastructure. So again, this is not what we are proposing to do tomorrow. Is what we're saying is a vision of what we can do on the longer term. Oh, wait. Next slide is the, thank you. Oh, okay, Don. No, go back. Okay, I can't come back because I'm on. Oh, whoa. Go back. Yeah, she had that. Oh, you didn't see? I saw. Oh, for a brief moment, I'm not controlling, she's controlling, so. Okay, start over? No, I think we can. Anyway, what we are here to present, the concept of the idea is not something, I mean, we would like to have access to the water as soon as possible, and we don't need much to do that one. We need we need really to put an access to the water and get an authorization to put an access to the water. And over time, we would like to develop a more strong and bigger infrastructure for the community center. But our proposal is to start whenever you guys can work with us to get access to this piece of water. Okay, if you can give us access to this piece of water, right, or help us get access. We know that's not under your control. It's probably a combination of the parks department, the state for the water area, but that's what we're looking for. So that's what we want to say. It's short, but I'll open the floor. And before I open the floor for questions, I just want to ask my colleagues if they want to add something that I missed.
You have to speak into the mic.
Thank you for having us. My name is David Shin. I think Nelson covered pretty much everything. And what I want to iterate is that we need the community support to make this success. And that's why we're here. And that's why we are asking for your help so that we can help give access to the residents.
If, can we have access to the mailing list? I can distribute to everybody, or you can.
You would send it to us, we don't give you our mailing.
Perfect, perfect. So the thing is, but I'll send to you. Oh, you have it, right? So you can send to them. Thank you.
So I just want to get this clear. Have you guys has anyone spoken to the EDC? Because,
No, yeah. everybody
have?
talks to the EDC.
oh, so what's going on with that?
Uh,
Nothing?
EDC is right now thinking
Oh, I
about,
think-
oh, sorry. EDC right now is thinking about doing something that they may consider in what they call the MAID campus is on the other side of the park, passing the park over there. And that's what they are thinking about doing something over there. They are thinking about putting an RFP and that they're dealing, this is a commercial activity, right? Like most of what DC does. So as David said, we're looking for involvement of the community because the community is critical for this. It's for the community, right? So last Thursday, there was a meeting. Carlos, I don't know if you know him. He is not one of ours. He's a resident here, a member of the community. He was there. We participate in this meeting with them, and there is nothing specific. At this moment, there's not any specific action on them they have to consider. In any case, that area that we're talking here, EDC doesn't want to discuss because they want to focus on side of the thing, developing what they are doing there that's complex, right? So we are looking, as David pointed out, for the support of the community board to help us with the support of the community, right? We are trying to talk to the councilwoman here. We're trying to talk to the assembly person and everybody. But if you can have your support, your recognition, this is an important action for the community that would be extremely appreciated.
Funny that I feel like I've heard this presentation before. Like we had a presentation, I don't know if you remember, Jeremy, from two people. I think they belong to the Guanas Dredgers Canoe Club, and they also wanted to start waterfront education center in Bush Terminal Pierce Park. I can't remember where exactly, but maybe we can connect you two. When they came to present at our meeting, they didn't have a specific request, but they were in like the preliminary stages of forming that idea.
The Waterfront Trail, that is one of the organizations that we put on the list, is probably the other organization that was together with the dredgers, right?
Summer
Yes,
kayaking.
exactly.
Yeah.
On the other side of the park where there is the lagoons, because they're basically using the lagoons because it's very protected area. So they just bring canoes and kayaks and get people access there once a year or once every couple of years when they can do that one. What we're proposing is something that's more permanent, and we want to bring them on board. We're not proposing, as I said, that this is a community business, is not for profit for anything else. We want to bring everybody together. We need to have the space. But the most important point is to have access to the water, what is kind of the big question. And to your question of EDC, it's interesting. You go to talk to EDC, EDC deals with the land, but they really do not have control over the water. So that comes there. But I mean, you cannot get to the water unless you jump from the sky, right? You cannot get access to water without going through the land. So, and they don't answer the question. That's, I think, why we are pushing for a more broad, I would say, coalition of interested parties that can push us to identify what is required to really get access to this portion of water here, right? From there, many things can go. So canoes, we are offering sailing because that's what we have access. That's what we have equipment for. For the canoes and for the kayakis, the dredgers have access. The kayakis associations have access, and individuals have access. So everybody can do something else. But what we like to do is really to develop this concept of this not be kind of a sailing club, right? Or canoeing club. Is really a community-focused organization that will be providing, a community-focused center that will be providing these services to the community that we hope, we believe, we talk, We haven't been quiet for a little while. I mean, David has been talking to most of the school districts, and everybody is very, very interested in participating in this. This is the kind of supports that we're gathering to put this thing together, because otherwise it looks like a bunch of people that is trying to have fun, right? No, we need to really show that the community is interested. That's why I presented the concept for you, and expecting the participants will be interested. Jeremy? Oh. Sorry, I'm a little bit of,
So obviously you need somebody to speak to EDC, put some pressure on EDC, get EDC to share your vision. Have you reached out to local elected officials? Have you had your supporters like schools or other not-for-profits or just individuals from around the community reach out to elected officials to try to push them to get EDC to be more accommodating?
I have been sending emails and leaving voicemails for the local, elected officials. Been doing it at least once a week for the last 6 months. I still haven't heard back from them. So I will keep trying, and it will not stop.
so Jeremy, yes, correct. So we are in the process of doing this, right? So we have identified the things, and we're doing there. Supporters we're gathering, right? We're gathering supporters. We have been, the most of the supporters that we're having here is from the public schools right now, right? Other organizations, we start talking to them. There is still a divide in the markets. One of the biggest divides was created by EDC. So everybody went to talk to EDC, and EDC told them, oh, wait and send when we put an RFP, right? So that's the best way to divide the system, instead of putting really the interest of the community first. So we believe that this is something that we can now start articulating to put together, and that's what we've been doing over the last 6 weeks or so. So we are marching to your direction. It's not easy to get elected officials, but yeah, maybe, yeah. There's a bit, the budget has been already passed, right? So, I mean, I think there is, well, almost.
Other questions? Microphone's right here.
Appreciate the presentation. Appreciate you all coming down. Just some quick questions. Have you all projected any costs with the development of a center like this? The second being, what local community organizations have you all consulted Park about this project in particular?
Oh, go with the cost first.
Okay, on the cost, yeah. I mean, there is different perspectives of it is. I mean, this thing is something that can be done for not what you saw in the drawing, that, oh, you didn't see in the drawing because the drawing was very fast. Constructing a whole house would be complicated, but the setup of a system like that costs probably $300,000 to $400,000. It's not a significant amount. It includes everything, and we are proactively fundraising for that. The maintenance, depending on the infrastructure to do, but can go for $150,000 to $200,000 a year for offering all this the whole full year. This is how we budgeted, and we look at that. In terms of communities, organizations, there is, I think David is the more local than I am in.
The local organizations that I've been reaching out to are mostly schools, after-school programs, and other community boards. But the bigger organizations that we're reaching out to are the other not-for-profit, Brooklyn Boat Works. Like Nelson said, we don't want to be just sailing. We want to include all the other not-for-profits to work together to provide the best experience for the community.
Just want to add one thing quickly. I mean, we don't know the word, and we are not the masters of the universe. So any ideas that you have, any people that you can put us together, please, we appreciate, recommend. We would love to have contacts. I mean, I'm pointing in here. We met Carlos in one of those community meetings, and he is a local. He represents not an organization specifically, but it's a person very well attuned, and he liked the idea, and he start or interested in helping us to put together the concept because he see the benefit. So we can do similar presentations to anyone that you want. It doesn't need to be in a formal environment. We can just sit with anyone that you want, and we can just basically talk and just so what the idea is. And even if people want to see what that means, we can go to some of the other organizations. They are open. We show how that works, and people can see what we're trying to offer to you guys.
Have you put any sailing events in around here?
Very large ones, not for this.
Oh.
Well, I was a member of Hudson River Community Sailing for many years, and so I did this. Dave, Pat, and Mark, they are from the sailing club in Shipshead Bay, Brooklyn, that has permanently programs that they help with kids and schools in the region. So they are very experienced on that front. I did it through Hudson River. Chris, right there, is one of the leaders of this Storm Trisail Foundation. That's one of the organizations that basically promote this kind of events on a broader spectrum, supporting other organizations that do that. So the group itself as a whole, Laurent has the tremendous experience, even taught sailing in some of those places like Manhattan Sailing here in the harbor. So I think everybody somehow has experience in putting that together. And beyond that, we had experience in putting together large events for sailing, but they're not on the focus of community sailing. We come to a point that we believe that each one of us, that we have done enough to bring our expertise, our experiences back to the community. So that's what we're trying to bring at this point.
Yeah, but any events in Sunset Park, like on the water, like the summer?
Not us.
Okay, and I'm just thinking of ways to kind of see if there's a way to grow an appetite for the community. I feel like we had the summer canoe event and it was really successful and a lot of people were really happy with it and were.
Yeah, we can think about something similar. We need to find a place where people can access the boats. That's an important point because a canoe, yeah, safely. A canoe is something that you put in your back and you bring, right? Even talking to the people of the canoe and things like that, it seems to be a huge operation because they have to bring the canoes by basically rowing from I don't know where to this place here. It takes a lot of coordination. We can bring 3-4 boats and offer a day for the community. The largest challenge will be we need to develop a process for these people to have access to the boats. And then we will be kind of, we need to see how that could be done in a practical way. And Chris will not allow us to do anything because he's responsible for safety. And then he will say, no, we'll not allow you to do that. But we can plan around something. A slightly different alternative. Well, I think there is ways to do that. Not probably here because there is no infrastructure, but we can do something for the community nearby. I know that, for example, in Brooklyn Army Terminal, right? There is a place that is used by the police boats. Maybe we can talk to our neighbors here in the building and maybe they can get us access that we can dock there and we can bring people there to taste the water, but not really starting from here because there will be no way for us to bring people into the boats. Okay.
Any other questions? Yep. Okay, so like I told Natalie earlier, since we don't have a majority of the committee here, we can't vote on a letter of support, but I can definitely bring this up in the general meeting, which is the next Wednesday, and ask the board to vote, and maybe we'll have more people with better recommendations on ways that we can get EDC more involved or like just kind of light a fire under them. But if you'd like to speak then as well, like we can definitely try to arrange that, just like a way smaller, yeah, just because it's usually packed, but yeah.
EDC has told us that the 51st Street land where there's the access to the water, they do not control that Community Board 7 controls. I don't know if that's true. Okay, I just wanted to clear
Wait,
that.
Jeremy, let's hear from Jeremy.
Jeremy, now you're not a participant to that. Now you're a part.
I got a bridge to sell you too. No, Port Authority has that because that is the rail float bridge there.
Can I,
Community Board 7 owns no land.
actually, the owner of the land is the bureau or the small business, small business, right? When you go to the records of the city, all the land around it belongs to the small business office. Small business services, yes. They are the ones that are on the records. Apparently, someone signed an agreement that allows EDC to manage, but the land really belongs to the small business services. The next step there is that there is a distinction between land and water. That's the part that makes everybody crazy, and we could not find anyone that could answer that properly, right? So access to the land,
51st Street, there's land, there's water, there's rail. Rail is a whole thing unto itself.
it is, and the rail is Port Authority. Okay. And, well, I think the park area that's behind the rail there, where the rail comes on the side, that park is nobody's land, no one's land. No man's land that they call their handsmade tale.
I'm getting my steps in. Do you mean the rail that is a spur that goes out to the avenue?
The spur comes and do it kind of.
Right.
Right next to the spur, there is a whole piece of land that is.
Next to the buildings.
On the other side, buildings, rail, land.
So there are a number of different jurisdictions. There's Department there's EDC, there's sanitation, depending where you are. There's also EDC. Some of that land is being used, hopefully eventually, by Steiner Studios as an entranceway into their space. So it really depends specifically the land you're talking about. I couldn't tell you just from a conversation.
Well, I can show you the map when we finish. I don't think we need to waste people's time. But Jeremy, I think the point that we're trying to make is the following. If we enter into this, I mean, I'm not saying that we'll have to, but I mean, if we enter into this bureaucracy, we'll never come out of the answer. That's what being pushed. Oh, no, you talk to, I mean, you know, it's the 12 works of Asterix. If you ever write the book, they have to move from floor to sign the paper, and they cannot. What we're trying to think is that this is a community-driven initiative, right? So if there is a way, we don't want a land ownership. We don't want a water ownership. We want to access. And we, of course, if we need to sign a lease, an agreement, a waiver, whatever it is, we are prepared to do that. However, the first thing that I think the most important that you guys can help us is to find who is the person that can basically give us, right? I hope it's not the Leo 14, but someone on that range could be at that level of discussion, could be the one that will make the decision. But so far, if you guys can help us at least find out who can give us this, even if it's temporary, right? Temporary permit means if for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, until everything is sorted out. I mean, the community needs this access, or we believe the community needs this access, the community wants access, and there is what we're proposing to do. That's it. Thank you.
So much for your presentation. I'll present that at the general. Okay, great. I think notices for that will be going out sometime this week. Okay, so with that, our meeting is done. I just have one thing to point out. Esteban is another board member of the committee, and he and we created a community cleanup group. I have to plug it in. We're having our first event May 24th, so next Saturday, really early, 8 to 9 a.m. We're cleaning up under the BQE from 54th to 59th Street. So if anyone's interested, please reach out. I'm also looking for any recommendations in the neighborhood that's like needs attention. I'm happy to coordinate any cleanup routes, efforts. If anyone wants to get involved as well with the group, please let me know. I'm more than happy to take on as many routes and people who want to help. So yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you guys all get home safe. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Please, please. The 24th, I should have made that clear.